I remember hearing it the first time with the bells, and I was like, fuck, you can't get any better than this. It was monumental for its time, because at the end of it, I mean, we come from Birmingham and Aston, it's fucking grey, drizzly, industrial, pollution fucking place. And there was something on the radio going, if you go to San Francisco, be sure to wear a flower in your hair. The only fucking flowers we ever saw was on a funeral.
Yeah, so my first moment of hearing that record, Sabbath's first record, was by accident. I think I've told this story before. I was walking down the street, found the cassette. Didn't know what it was on. It was a blank cassette. And I was 10 or 11, and I found it and picked it up and went home, not thinking of anything, and put it in my little mini, recorder. And the moment I heard it after pushing play, it was complete fear with confusion, but I had to keep listening. You know what I mean? It was like, I was hooked.
Black Sabbath, this is the song, right? This is the manifesto for all that is heavy metal and all that came after it. So this is a real statement of what this 50 years is all about. Because this sets the pace for everything else behind it. Just the somberness and the darkness that is all wrapped into the first half of the song. But then it's the interesting choice of how then it speeds up, and that bridge section of how it ramps up and creates all this tension and mood and sort of builds into this into this great crescendo of where the guitar solo is, and just how the ending, there's the massive tight ending that really puts an exclamation point on this adventure that they take you on, that sets the pace, and where now they've established themselves as this thing that you've never heard before of what is it when you combined blues and horror movies, and this is what you get.
Big black shape with eyes of fire. Telling people their desire.
But I remember I put it on and I was just beyond terrified. And what I always tell everybody, I was Catholic when I put the record on. By the time I got done with the side of the record, I was pretty much a full-blown Satanist. And then by the end of the record, the last song when it ended, I had converted back to Catholicism just so I could thank God for creating Black Sabbath. And that's my first Sabbath experience.
Black Sabbath, I think, owes some of its great originality from its relative isolation in the country of England and the Birmingham, working class, factories, hard drinking. Your father drank, his father drank, you're gonna drink with both of them because that's what men do. I think that's one of the reasons why Black Sabbath started off so originally, because they had no one telling them what the thing to do is. Hence the album cover, the name, and the content. 2 odes to Satan on one record. I would wonder if Black Sabbath didn't understand how big of a statement they were making. And I think, how could they? Because you needed a few years for everyone to go, oh, it's called heavy metal now. Because that these guys came upon this vein where they kind of invented the vein. It's not like they found we struck oil, they are the oil itself, and they kind of struck themselves.
The Wizard, actually, Ozzy showed me how to play the harmonica part. I think it was the harmonica sitting around in the studio, and he was doing it. I was like, Oz, how do you do that? He goes, here, Zakk, let me show you. And then you got to breathe in, and you got to do, and so Ozzy was my harmonica teacher. So I took lessons at Ozzy Osbourne University for harmonica, and I also majored in drinking, which I graduated with flying colors.
I just thought the riff was amazing. Like, who puts harmonica on a record? And then you think, who puts harmonica on a heavy metal album? Oh, wait a minute. We weren't calling it that then.
The Wizard. The Wizard is one of those songs that when you listen to it, I think that you can take it for granted because you don't appreciate the depth as to what this song is. And by having to re-record it and look under the hood and really kind of diagnose all the little bits and pieces of this, it is a crazy song.
The first Black Sabbath album was done in like 12 hours or something. We were going to a ferry to do some residency work in a bar in Zurich. So he said, on the way down, stop at the studio, did it. So we just caught it again, jammed around. Bill Ward's drums were mono on that first album. It was effortless, I think it was a 2 8-tracks, 2 4-track bounced. And we just got up, sat out, played the songs, and beat the B-side. It's like 2 or 3 songs, and Tony does his guitar solo, which is what he used to do on the shows every night. Because back then it was in England, it was like underground movement was very, they were like blues, jazz. And there's a lot of jazz in with early Sabbath. Because we started off as a jazz blues band, 12-bar blues. And, just get kids in a van, having a bit, better than getting a day job.
Yeah.
Having a laugh, women's, booze, dope, whatever. So back then the thing was to get a gatefold sleeve. Because, it was like the big bands had gatefolds.
Right.
When he started to show us that first album sleeve, it was like, fuck. It was like we were blown away. And he got, we got our first advance of like $105. I've never seen so much fucking money.
Yeah.
And I'm in the club one night, and he comes up to me, the manager, and he goes, I got something to tell you. I said, what's that? He says, your album enters the British charts. I'm 17. Yeah, get away. I don't know what makes a band work. It's not one, it's not four, it's the unit. You know, I knew the band was fucking hot. I knew the band was hot. But it's just trying to sell the rest of the world.
For me, again, having a love for Black Sabbath and Bill Ward, there definitely are elements of his playing that are, I believe, crucial. Such a feel. He's one of those drummers where, besides his swing, which is the most important thing of his playing, and I think what he brings to the song, he's one of those guys where normal player would go to a hat, he'd go to a ride. You know, he wasn't afraid to move around the kit and try different things, you know. Put cowbells in the middle of fills that were just like so random, and like trying to replicate that or figure out how he got to that cowbell in the middle of that roll, only Bill Ward knows.
The best lyric on that album is visions cupped within a flower, deadly petals with strange power.
Heavy stuff.
Fucking great lyric. That's one of my favourite songs of that album. But Geezer originally was a rhythm player. They switched to bass. Geezer really was the lyricist and the guy that come up with these wild titles on, you know, he went to a better school than me and Tony. He was more educated. Tony Iommi was the driving force behind Sabbath because he would just say, don't get nervous, dude. He would keep us in check. If you fucked up, he'd tell you, you know. But he'd left and he'd been with Jethro Tull and he'd had a bit of the big time, so he'd come back with a bit of knowledge, if you like. And we were like, oh, fuck, you know, he knows what he's talking about. There ain't nobody can come up with them licks like him. He's fucking unbelievable. There's time after time I'd go, he ain't gonna beat that fucking thing. And he would every time. He's the best.
Bill was, whether it was intentional or not, it's almost slightly, but well, it's behind the beat. I believe like when they were recording and doing stuff, his eyes were closed, dude, and he was doing that hippie thing. He was feeling, you know what I mean? It was a groove thing he was bringing to this weirdly heavy stuff. It's like, and that's what made it, as Henry said, heavier.
If you don't have bass and drums, you don't have anything. And when there's some Stooges live show where Iggy says, if you don't have the drums, you don't have it. You're like, he's not wrong. And look at that rhythm section, fantastic. So I started paying attention to the rhythm section of Black Sabbath, and Greg and Chuck would talk about this kind of delayed wallop that Black Sabbath has, where it's like a rubber band being popped, like, whoa, bam. So they're kind of behind the beat, where it's always like an arrow, boom. And that's how it's being propelled from behind. There's that kind of lazy, like the angry guy's gonna give you the smack.
Groove, just the Bill Ward groove. And it's so good that it can't end with the rest of the song. It has to go on by itself, completely under a spotlight, and everyone fades off, but yet here's this sick groove that refuses to die. There's a moment in Basically where the volume dips down. Maybe you feel like that was by accident, you know what I mean? Because they had to record this album so fast and it just felt weird, like why wouldn't you hear the bass solo at full volume? So I actually asked Geezer, I was like, man, why does it dip down there? Is that on purpose? And he says, absolutely on purpose, so that it draws you in, and it created that sort of dynamic moment where you have to dig in deeper. You have to turn it up. You have to really kind of pry yourself in there and see what's going on, and then it lifts, and then the bass intro, da-na-na-na, like just crushing.
hit those first notes, it's like people lose it. And we watched it happen when we do it, you know. And at first I remember when we were doing this, I wasn't convinced. I was like, oh, it's like, I know it's a favorite, I know, but it's undeniable. It's just that song, it's undeniable.
N.I.B, the obvious hit on this record. It felt like that this is the one, this is kind of the standout track of like, if there's a single on this album, N.I.B is it.
When you listen to Black Sabbath lyrics, like it's the most alienated, world is being destroyed, war is bad, and governments are evil, and women leave you. And like, it's just like, that's my band. Because it's true outsider music. And look at them. You know, they look like dudes from a bar. They look like they work for a living. They look like you and your friends. It would be outsiders from nowhere who are not polluted by being hip or being trendy or skinny or blonde or whatever the thing you have to be in London that minute. You can just be in a nowhere town and just do your own thing and win because you're just original almost by default. And again, if you look around what's going on in released music in the year of 1970, there's some satanic references or like, you know, she's a little devil or whatever. But like, you know, my name is Satan, please take my hand. And they save it to the end of the song. Like, oh, like, you love me, but oh, you're the devil. Oh, dude. I'm just thrown in my lot with you.
I think for me, having somebody that I've looked up to as a musician for so many years, like Zakk, who's been in the Ozzy camp, who's been in that world, go out and take his all-star band and do the Sabbath and pay tribute to them, but do it, you know, on caffeine and steroids, you know, taking it to another level and really, you know, energizing it a lot for the fans has been great. And having been on the road with them and seeing the crowds that are coming out to check out the show, it's really been inspiring, man. You know, people don't want this music to die, and eventually our bands go away, right? So we don't have Sabbath anymore. So thank God there's somebody carrying on the legacy, but who also he's part of the family. You know, Zakk is part of that family. And, you know, obviously all that DNA from Black Sabbath is in his playing, so it really comes naturally.
So Wicked World actually is the first song that Sabbath wrote beyond, you know, a lot of the covers and stuff they were doing in clubs. So we actually were inspired by Live at Last, and Wicked World on the live record is really doomy and really slow. And on the album, it's a lot more up-tempo. So we tried to combine the two, and we kept sort of the energy up. But when it comes to those verses, man, we pulled them back, like on the live record, and tried to doom them out as much as possible.
It's Ozzy biting the head off of a bat. It is not a Native American woman chewing on feathers. A lot of people think it is, but I was 13 or 14 years old, and I had this like tall shelf in my room with a teeny tiny little TV, like a real fat but small TV. And I just remember seeing Ozzy on TV with these tight black jeans on, all sweaty, and just like dancing around on stage, and I didn't know shit about Black Sabbath. Just a sound I'd never heard. I remember seeing that, and I had a karaoke machine. It was like a shelf, so I had the karaoke machine underneath it, and I took the microphone, and I had tape, and I would tape the microphone to the side of my TV if I ever saw something on TV that I really liked, and I taped it up there, and then I hit record on the tape player, and just recorded it and kept listening to it over and over and over again.
Well, I think, like you said, you have to sit with it and then you learn it, and obviously you're going to put your little embellishments on it. But I mean, there's a lot of the licks that you just got to learn, the way it is on the record. I mean, because when I'm listening to it, I'm just assuming, picturing back then, going to see them live. I guarantee you, the way they had worked it in, because they've done night in, night out, playing that live show. The jams are pretty much formulated jams. Like, you throw out what's the other stuff, but like main things you keep, and you could hear it in those jams. I mean, I may be wrong, don't even say exactly, a lot of that was even just on the spot we even made of that, but to me it just seems like a lot of them it was worked out ahead of time, just throughout trial and error, just, exactly, we were jamming it every night, and it's just like, this is, like, we do with Zakk Sabbath, the same thing. Extended jams that we have, it's turned into pieces now, where I play certain licks every night and stuff like that, where it falls into that. But, so it's constructed. It's improv, but then you keep the important, all these trademark or cool licks. But yeah, sat and learned that. And then, certain parts where you could just improv a little bit, but then you'd always go back to the original. So yeah, but that was a lot of fun, just learning it all. And then, and then breaking it down and having fun with it.
We're going over, I thought it would be a kind of a cool idea that if we played Birmingham on the 50-year anniversary. So February 13th, Black Sabbath came out in 1970. So this is going to be the 50-year anniversary. And I go, what a better place to do it than play? And we've never been there before. And I go, we should play Birmingham on the 50-year anniversary. And we booked a gig there, and it sold out really fast. So we upgraded the venue, so now we're playing a little bit of a bigger place. I don't know, it's exciting. It's fun to celebrate them and their career and this album in this way. And man, it's just like we're looking forward to it.
We were 4 guys from Birmingham who we all had the same start in life. We stuck it out, and one of the most proudest things of my entire career is the fact we were 4 local lads that did well. We weren't some invention by some London big mogul.
Morning. This is a monster, and this is certainly the track where you go, this is going to push us to the limits, So we're like, let's record this one first to get it out of the way, because once we get this one done, then all the others will be considerably much easier.
That song in particular, that, to me, it sounds like the time. That sounds like the 70s to me. it's like a mini story, I guess, in a weird way. You know what I mean? The way the song keeps unfolding. But how they got to that is so bizarre. You can hear the emotion in each one of them as they're getting through it.
You know, I love the concept of Zakk Sabbath and doing the first album very much in the way that Sabbath did it. You know, back then, of course, they didn't have any budget, so it was like, just get in, do your parts, and get out. They didn't know what they were creating. I mean, if you listen to that album, you know, they definitely had the makings of some solid songs on there, but there's a lot of improv and a lot of jamming on there. And, you know, for people who haven't seen the Zakk Sabbath tribute, there's a lot of jamming during the show, and so that captures that spirit as well. You know, I think they kind of came in with a bunch of songs and then said, oh, we still got time to fill, so, you know, let's just go into a kind of a heavy blues jam, and that's sort of the basis of the album, which I think is really cool. And again, I don't think they really knew what they were creating back then. It was just like, let's just get in there and do what we do, and hopefully people dig it.
This whole area was a Viking burial. Well, originally it was a Viking burial ground.
Okay.
The Saxons also buried people here. It's quite a crazy thing, and it went on to be a kind of leprosy hospital. This whole little area had these were like the grounds of it. And over the years, it developed, and the church there, St. Giles Church, is really old. The actual burial ground is all around this area, right? There's something about it. Late at night when you're in here and you tap into something, it's strange. I don't know what it is. There's just some sort of force there. It sounds as silly as it sounds. Yeah. And Sabbath did something where they kind of tapped into that, whatever that was. Right. And I really feel like if you come here late at night and you just jam, it's the weirdest thing. You kind of tap into, there's some sort of energy, there's some sort of force. Very odd. Very cool. I know it sounds really far out.
No, that's awesome.
But
it makes sense though.
Trust me, you know, it's weird.
They unlocked something. They found this energy source. 4 guys. And you're like, that's an unlimited amount of energy coming from this band. And they just kind of went, ha, kaboom, this thing blotting out the sun. And I don't know any band who kind of bumped into something like that. Where you're like, what the fuck? They hit this gusher of power.
There are a lot of bands that I grew up listening to that have impacted my life now, but there's music that changes you and shifts you. You turn onto these wild paths in life, and it definitely, you know, I'm walking along in life and I hear Sabbath and I went this way, and then I hear something that came from Sabbath and I go this way. If they hadn't gotten together and made the music that they make, I just feel like I wouldn't be or think or feel how I do now about music and play the way I play and feel the freedom to be whatever the fuck I feel like being. However you want to do it. You don't have to be in a box. That's special to me. It's important to realize you're not in a goddamn box.
There wouldn't be a lot of bands without Black Sabbath. You can hear it in the DNA of all these bands that have come after them. You know, they've sort of crossed every genre, their influence, and that's why it's super important. It's not just the music they made, it's the music they inspired.
I think the fact that it's turning 50, it's easy to forget that this was unaccepted music. And to the great consternation of FM radio and rock critics, these guys were selling out arenas in America. with fans who are still going to those shows now, bringing their sons and their sons' children. They're as essential to the earth as carbon. I mean, I can't imagine a world without heavy metal, which means I can't imagine a world without Black Sabbath.
Just a little bit too strong.
Listen, I remember I smoked a joint one day, and I'm sitting there, I'm fucking bingo sparkler, and I put the album on, and my mum, to play for my mum and dad. And I'm sitting in the fucking room spinning, and there's the bell starting. I'm trying to speak, it just looks like I'm nothing wrong with me. At the end of the album, there's a lot of thunder. They're all expecting to hear, come and make all this beer they drink. And my father goes, son, I'm going to ask you a question now. Don't take your time in the answer, but are you sure you're just having the occasional beer? I lost, you know. Are you sure? Are you sure you're just having the occasional beer? Oh, fucking hell. I thought, yes, Dad.
In my opinion, Tony Iommi weaponized the electric guitar and turned it into an instrument where you bludgeon your audience into a state of joyful submission, where they go with you because they've been beaten into a state of drool in a coma, and they'll follow you anywhere.
So here I am, 53 years old, and now I'm still playing. It's pretty awesome. Like I always tell everybody, I go, yeah, Zakk Sabbath. I go, yeah, it's when I was 15 years old, we used to play these songs at keg parties. Now I'm 53, and we still play these songs at keg parties, except there's just a couple more people. That's just the red cups and the kegs, nothing's really changed. And the songs are still great, and everyone still loves them.
Wow, 50, fuck. All the drugs I've taken since.
And during.
And I'm still alive.
Hi there, this is Zakk Wylde. Black Sabbath is awesome.